Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. There have been a lot of really intriguing storylines for this Florida Gators program as they've gone through spring practice. Now, seemingly the only storyline that is getting talked about in the national media, seemingly the only storyline that anybody wants to talk about is DJ Lagway not throwing passes. Now, look, I'm not going to get up here and say that should not be something we monitor for this Florida program. It certainly is. But what I would also say is don't let that distract you from the other positive returns that we're getting from this Florida program going into 2025. And I think to me, when I look at the storylines, it's the true freshman. Like there's a lot of things that we know about this football team going into 2025. They have a ton of returning production, ton of proven commodities on this roster. Billy Napier noted this going into spring practice. It was a light transfer portal class for Florida. And Billy Napier said, because we believe that the freshmen that we have coming into our program are going to be able to contribute immediately in the 2025 season. Want to take a look at the freshmen who have impressed in spring practice. And for lack of better terms, we are going to rank the freshmen in terms of impact they will have in the 2025 season. Fired up to get into it. Before we do, and as always, to the Florida fans, I think most importantly, call your shot in the comment section. I know a lot of y'all are very in tune with this program, especially in tune with what this program does on the recruiting trail. If you are listening to this at the end of March, like you probably got a freshman or two in mind that you think is going to be a difference maker for Florida in 2025. Let it fly in the comment section. Call your shot on the freshmen you think have the biggest impact on this team in 2025. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. It has been a blast talking this program, and good luck to the Florida Gator fans in the hoops game tonight as well. I'll be certainly tuned in. Appreciate you guys. Without further ado, let's get into it. To me, it's a no-brainer. If you were to ask me, and I think this would go for a lot of Florida fans who are listening to this and are kind of dialed into this program, Dallas Wilson is going to play early, and in my opinion has a real potential to be one of the bigger difference makers as a true freshman that you see in the country, largely for a couple of different reasons, right? You start with just Dallas Wilson and who he is as a prospect coming in. This is a guy that is physically ready to play. I mean, the height, weight, speed is big time. You're talking 6'3", 210 with an 11-second 100-meter dash. Physically, he's ready to step on an SEC football field and play at a high level. And then I think, secondly, there's some opportunity in this wide receiver room for a freshman to come in and contribute, specifically out on the boundary. Because you look at Florida, hey, we're trying to replace Elijah Badger. We're trying to replace Tremere DK. Now you bring in a guy in J. Michael Sturdivant, who I think was one of the more underrated transfer portal additions that we saw in the winter. But you're looking for more bodies that can do it. Dallas Wilson, to me, is a perfect fit in this Florida offense immediately in 2025, where what does DJ Lagway do best? There's a lot of things he does at a high level, but what he does best is push that ball down the field, that deep ball. Now you are adding a 6'3", 210-pound wide receiver that runs an 11-second 100-meter dash that has tremendous body control and kind of catch radius vertically downfield. Not only a really good wide receiver, that can play early because of the physical traits he has, but also a guy that skill set fits exactly what Florida is looking for in the 2025 season with DJ Lagway running this offense. Number two, this is going to be a little bit of a hot take of mine, but a guy that I think contributes. Now, there's all different sorts of level of contribution that we're looking for from these freshmen. Like Dallas Wilson, my expectation for him is to be a starting wide receiver and one of the more integral role players in this passing attack in the 2025 year. Stephon Shivers, I do not expect to start for Florida. I would be stunned if he plays, 40, 50 snaps a game for Florida, but is a guy that Florida's looking for depth in the middle of that defensive line. We're looking for some of those big bodies, maybe a guy to replace someone like Des Watson. I think Stephon Shivers can be that guy. And if you're a Florida fan, what you're looking for here is, hey, can you give us 10, 15, maybe 20 quality snaps a football game as a role player on that defensive line? That's all we're looking for with a guy like Stephon Shivers. One, he's got his body right. There was some work that needed to happen with his body as he came into Florida. You're seeing him transform the body. We know he has the size and physicality to play early in the SEC. The thing that separates him from a guy like Des Watson, at least in my evaluation here, is I think he's a better athlete. I mean, go take a look at the junior and senior film. This is a big, big body that's low-key a sneaky, really good athlete, can get off the line of scrimmage, can do the dirty work, eat up double teams, be that nose that we're looking for, but also a guy that I think can run the line of scrimmage a little bit better than Des Watson. We're looking for some young cats to really emerge as depth pieces. I'm talking about Dontre Robinson. I'm talking about Mekhi. Now I'm talking about Stephon Shivers. Stephon Shivers, to me, is very important to give Florida that adequate depth in the middle of the defensive line. And I think he's a guy that I don't know if he's ever going to be that disruptive force like a Caleb Banks. I just don't think that's the type of football player he is. But look, that skill set, even though he might not show up in the box score all that much, is going to be really important, especially when you talk about having one of the best and more athletic linebacker rooms in the country. Hey, we get Stephon Shivers giving us 15 really quality snaps, eating up double teams, keeping them linebackers free and downhill. That's what you're looking for from this kid. And I think he's capable of doing it, and you're hearing good things from him coming out of spring practice. Number 3, a guy that we haven't really talked about a ton, but a guy that's getting some buzz here is Lagonza Hayward. Now, I always struggle with that first name. The thing that stands out to me is you look at pictures of him on the practice field and say, holy smokes. I mean, he looks like a guy that's been within a college football program for 3 to 4 years. This is about as developed as a true freshman as you'll see, 6'1", 205, a lot of different things this kid can do. The thing most notably is he's going to have the adequate physicality to play as a safety. And you can do a lot of different things with him. You can play him as a single high. You can spin him down into the box, and he can support the run game. And I think he can hold up in man coverage. It's a really good athlete. That was around an 11-second 100-meter dash, can run with wide receivers, has good short area quicks. It's probably going to get hard to get on the field as a starter because you bring back Bryce Thornton and Jordan Castell, guys that have played a lot of football. We've seen Florida have to go into their depth at times in the secondary, and you kind of assume they'll have to again in 2025. I would not be surprised if him or Drake Stubbs, make the 2 deep for Florida in the 2025 year and end up having to play significant snaps for Florida at points in 2025. Now, there are 2 different kind of safeties. Lagonza Hayward is just this freaky athlete. Now you look at Drake Stubbs, a very good athlete in and of itself, but he's a guy that more of that ball hawking safety, a guy that you're probably going to play in a lot of that deeper third range, have him read the quarterback, go up and make plays on the football. 2 different kind of skill sets at the safety position, but you get the feel that one of them is probably going to be in the 2 deep, and one of them will probably have to play significant and important roles for Florida in 2025. And it sounds like both of them will be ready to do that in 2025 as well. We got 2 other freshmen to talk about. Vernell Brown. Look, if Eugene Wilson was not on this football team, I would probably have Vernell Brown as a day 1 starter. He, to me, was one of the most day 1 ready, wide receivers in the 2025 class. It's freaky. It's an almost identical skill set to a guy like Eugene Wilson. Now, the thing is, Eugene Wilson probably further along and probably going to be that starting slot wide receiver. To me, Vernell Brown, and this is, to me, one of the bigger storylines for this Florida offense in general here is I like the wide receiver room. I mean, you got guys like Dallas Wilson and Vernell Brown coming in, J. Michael Sturdivant, Aiden Mizell, Eugene Wilson. You got some talent in that room. And I'm interested to see if Billy Napier sees that and says, all right, maybe we go to a little less 12 personnel and try to get more 3-4 wide receiver sets. From just a simple standpoint of, hey, we want to get our best difference makers on the football field at the same time. It's probably in your wide receiver room. Now, how much is Vernell Brown going to play with a guy like Eugene Wilson? That's still to be determined, but you make no mistake about it. Vernell Brown is a difference maker and can be a difference maker year 1. And if you can figure out ways to get him the football in space, good things are going to happen with a guy like Vernell Brown. It's not blazing track speed like a guy like Tank Hawkins to elite short area quicks. He is impossible to tackle in a phone booth, very similar to how we talk about it like a guy like Eugene Wilson. Last player, Ben Hanks. And again, all of these players, I think, have a very good shot at being in the 2 deep for Florida in 2025. And a lot of these guys were guys that we saw coming out of high school and said, yeah, they're probably ready to go year one. Now, Ben Hanks, Devin Moore and Dejon Johnson are 2 really good football players that we probably expect to be your starting boundary cornerbacks. Cormani McClain, from everything that we've heard, is having a very, very good spring practice and had a really good winter workout period. So maybe you have 3 cornerbacks that are kind of ahead of Ben Hanks in the pecking order as we sit right now. But this is going to be another one of those freshmen that is going to be hard to keep off the football field. From what we're hearing in spring practice, it starts to make a little bit more sense why Florida did not go into the transfer portal and bring in 20 new players, because they got, 5, 6, 7 guys coming in as freshmen that sound like they will play and have a role for Florida in 2025, along with the fact that you just wanted to keep this roster together, which Florida did an exceptional job of. You keeping Caleb Banks for 1 more year, Austin Barber, Jake Slaughter. There are a lot of known commodities on this football team. There are a lot of new faces, especially these freshmen who are coming in and sound to be difference makers immediately. That's probably the biggest storyline that I'm getting out of spring ball. Now, again, everybody's going to talk about DJ Lagway. He's the one that people want to hear about, get the clicks. But do not let these freshmen who are balling out in spring practice fly under the radar, because I think some of them will play big-time roles for Florida in 2025. We're excited out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.